Hi, my name is Anthony O'Connor. I attended Tal Community School and I'm an Irish and French student at Trinity College Dublin.
My name is Emer and I am studying political science and geography in Trinity College Dublin. But I am actually from Letterkenny in County Donegal. This is where I grew up and I went to school in Loretto Secondary School, Letterkenny.
My name is Grace Benham and I grew up in the city centre and I attended Our Lady of Mercy College Beaumont for my secondary school.
Hey there, my name is Rhys Sheridan. I am from County Kildare and I'm a former student of Pipeshill College in Nice. And today, as part of College Awareness Week, I would like to take this opportunity for me to talk to you about my experience as a college student in Trinity College, Dublin.
I think that I knew Trinity was my first choice, that kind of first preference on the CAO, not too long after the higher options were in sixth year. I think being given the opportunity to go and see all the main universities in Ireland lined up side by side and approach each individual stand and pose the same question but receive a different answer each time really kind of provided me with all the information I needed to make that informed decision and say, yeah, Trinity is the college I want to go to, it is the place that I aspire to be. My favourite part about college is the independence, but more so that sense of achievement that comes with the independence. That idea that when I close my textbook or close my laptop and I'm done work for the day, I can say, oh, I learned this much vocabulary, or I read 3 chapters, 4 chapters, 5 chapters of a French book, and know that the reason why that material is covered is because of my own work. No one else sat there and did the work for me, I did it by myself. As well as that, I really enjoyed the immersion. When I'm in college and I have class, it's one of the few hours of the day where I'm completely immersed in the language.
Moving to Dublin, I really didn't know what to expect. It was a big shock to the system for me coming from Donegal. I came through college through the higher education access route. I'm a HERE student, so I had a lot of, maybe additional worries about finances and just being able to, be able to do it, be able to get through college. Because it was a big change, and I was the first in my family to go to college as well, so it was really trying it out for the first time. And I think that's really what helped. It was just going and doing it, because there wasn't that previous knowledge in my family, or there wasn't maybe the most money to support me, that it just it took having those worries about being able to afford it, and it took not knowing what to expect and just kind of surviving that first year to make me realise that, it's doable, and I got through it.
My favourite thing about college is the opportunity you get to grow as a person, either if that's through meeting diverse new people or just joining a new club and society.
So for me, it was always something that I wanted to do since a very young age, because no one in my family had ever gone to college. And therefore, I'm a first generation college student. And in that sense, I'm the trailblazer, you could say. But beyond that as well, there was a lot of reasons. First of all, it was always something I'd be interested in doing, because I do have this great interest in learning. But beyond that as well, college just seemed so exciting when I was growing up. Be it from the way it's represented in TV and music, when you see all these clubs and societies, it just really seemed like a really exciting and great place that anyone could be. It is very much that. It's the great sense of community that exists there, and the fact that every day you go into college, you're just going to learn something new, and you don't really know what's going to happen. Of course, you know what classes you're going to have, but you don't know what you're going to learn, who you're going to meet, what opportunities are going to come your way. It's a really super exciting experience. It's a very rewarding experience as well, I suppose I could say. But to say that I don't face any barriers in college, if I was to say that I don't, I'd be lying to you. I do. As a working class student, a first generation college student, it was really very much unfamiliar territory for me and my family, but I came into college through the higher education access route, and when I arrived in college I was connected up with the Trinity Access programs, who are a really fantastic bunch of people, and they've been a tremendous support to me, be it financially, be it personally, be it academically. They are really, really great at making me and so many other students in the college community feel supported and confident on their college journey.
My favourite subject for the Leaving Certificate was most definitely Irish, and this was thanks to the outstanding teacher that I had. I had the same teacher for the duration of the 6 years, and I think I just became so used to her teaching styles and her teaching methods that after a while the material just seemed to be a lot easier. I was just able to understand it a lot more. and this really helped. As well as this, I really liked the diverse exam at leaving certificate level. The oral components, the written, the reading, the fact that they are all assessed, it mirrors that of the examination in college, and if anything, it definitely prepared me for what was ahead, because every week I am examined on my oral, my written, my reading, and it just was a huge help, and it definitely prepared me a lot. I think that I knew that I wanted to do this course after talking to my teachers. I think by the time you get to leaving certificate, you have that bit more of a personal relationship with your teacher that you can turn around and say, oh, Miss, I actually really enjoy your class, but do you think I would enjoy this at university level? Because I know it's not the same. And when I posed this question to my Irish teacher, for example, she turned around and straight off the bat said like, oh, Anthony, I think you'd love it. The entire thing is taught through Irish. I think that's kind of what you're looking for, and it's what you need to grow in this language. And she was right. As well as this, I was also considering law for a very long time. And if I was to do law, I wanted law and the language. The problem with this being, I didn't want to lose the language. I didn't want to do law in Irish and not have French, and vice versa. Through TY, 5th year, 6th year, I was heavily involved in law programs through the Trinity Access programs and through Trinity itself as a college. And after talking to a solicitor in the Law Society of Ireland, I found out that the requirement for the solicitor's exams is merely a level 8 degree. So Irish and French is level 8, so my plan being, okay, well if I take Irish and French, I'll get a level 8 degree, I won't lose any language, and I can still go on to do law in the future. My course, day to day, it covers all the fundamentals. We have grammar classes, culture classes, and texts. Texts being plays, movies, poems, etc. And all of these are very important in learning a language successfully. I also have an oral class once a week in both my languages. If I was to describe a typical day in the life of an Irish and French student, I think that would be quite difficult, just because if we take out the fact that the classes are different every day, the material is constantly changing. Say for example, in texts, you might have 2 weeks of a play, but then 2 weeks of a poem, followed by 2 weeks of a movie. So this kind of has its pros and cons, because if you really like what is being taught, you don't kind of want it to end. But at that, if you're finding it difficult, if you're not enjoying the material, it is going to come to an end, and it's going to come to an end quite soon. So that is one thing to keep in mind if you were considering my course. Not to be too cliche or anything, but the highlight of my experience to date is definitely the friends I've made. The friends I've made along my college journey, they're just incredible.
In school, I studied all the basics, English, Irish, maths. As well, I chose geography, biology, music and French as my additional language. I really enjoyed languages, English, Irish, French and geography as well. Doing them helped me make my decision for what I wanted to study later on. And I suppose with college, it's hard to know sometimes what course is the right one for you. I was scrolling through CAO a lot, but I landed on the course that I'm in at the moment because I felt that the political science and the geography, the combination of the two would go well together. And Trinity College Dublin is the only university to offer that combination of the two. But I really do enjoy college, especially the kind of what you bring to it. So the different societies and fairs and events and clubs and organisations. When in college, I am a part of Science Gallery, which is it's a gallery where art and science comes together, and they do some really cool exhibitions and workshops and talks all the time. And I kind of break up my time in college by working in there and, you know, getting to meet some really great people, and I really enjoy it there. So that really adds to my time in college. But for a typical day in my life as a political science and geography student, there's not a lot of in-class time. It's very much, you know, independent. You do a lot of reading and a lot of preparing for your classes in the library. So if I'm not in a class, that's where you should find me. That's where I should be.
My course is Ancient History, Archaeology with the History of Art and Architecture. And although there was no subject-specific requirements for my course, I did do history in 6th year. By doing history, I feel like this benefited me a lot, as I learned certain skills like research skills and how to write essays, which is very valuable for my course at the moment. My guidance counsellor and my mum helped me decide if that I wanted to go to college. My guidance counsellor guided me through all the different types of options I had, including the point requirements, the subject entry requirements, and then my mum herself encouraged me to go to college because she had never been to college before and she felt like it was an opportunity that she really regretted missing out on. So my course is very reading based and it focuses mainly on ancient history like Greek and the Romans. My course does overlap a lot because I'm doing art history, and in archaeology we do study some artistic techniques that the ancient Greeks and the Romans used. In second year, however, I chose which path I preferred to go down and I'm currently taking the archaeology route.
I do European studies at Trinity College, Dublin, and I'm going to give you a second, and no more than a second, to think about what that might be, because it is a very unfamiliar subject, but what it is actually more accurately is a selection of subjects put together that examines and focuses on Europe as a community, as a construct, etc. And it's what would be called a multidisciplinary program, which is really exciting if you're like me and you're interested in a lot of things. I study history, sociology, French language, Spanish language, and as well as that I also do area studies for the two cultures, being French culture and Spanish culture. And a lot of the studies that I actually did in my Lebensjahr are incredibly helpful in preparing me for these modules. For my Lebensjahr I did your usual English, Irish, maths, but I also did French, history, geography and business. My favourite subject actually when I was in secondary school would have to be history, and whether I was any good at it or not, that's a different question altogether. But for me, I've always had this massive interest in stories, people and places, ideas, and seeing how these things have brought us in the past to where we are today and where they might even bring us to the future. It's super interesting. For me, why did I want to do this course? When I was trying to make that decision, I thought of three things. First of all, I said to myself, what am I interested in? Secondly, I said, what am I good at? Because sometimes what you're interested in isn't what you're good at. Sometimes what you're good at is not what you're interested in. And lastly, would whatever course I do provide me with opportunities, both be it in college and after college? And for me, this course really gave me those opportunities and even more. I often use the analogy of a vending machine, in the sense that what you put into it, you'll get out of it, and you may even be lucky and get something more out of it. And that's definitely a great attitude to adopt in secondary school as well. School certainly prepared me a lot in terms of the knowledge, experience and skills needed for this course, but I'd like to make a special mention for career guidance. They were tremendous at giving me the academic and personal tools to go through the Lebensjahr and senior cycle and even the first few weeks of college. So yeah, I think as well, definitely work with your teachers. They can be a great help to you, especially things that you're doing right now you might even think would be, of any use to you in college, but they will, such as in history. You'll be doing a lot of research for your reports, and languages, of course. If you're doing a language in college, in some cases you will require an existing familiarity with that language, and other times you won't. You can start from beginners like I did with Spanish. But yeah, definitely what you're doing in secondary school is really important and worthwhile. What I could do actually is, rather than just tell you about the course in more detail and the modules, I thought I'd kind of go through the day of life. So right now I live in Dublin city centre with a family member, and I'm not too far from college, so I would get up quite early, and the first class I would actually have would be Spanish, which I'm currently doing to an advanced level. After that I would do French, which I'm doing to again an advanced level. Both languages I love, and they can be quite hard sometimes, but I'm not afraid of a challenge. I don't think anyone should be. And in addition to those two, combined actually, I would do translation studies, which is really interesting because it's a whole realm of knowledge in itself. After lunch, I would go straight into a history lecture. At the moment, I am doing a module on 20th century European history, and this is a book by a famous historian of the period called Eric Hobsbawm. The book's name is The Age of Extremes, which, if you're in any way at all familiar with 20th century European history, be it World War I, World War II, etc., it's definitely an age of extremes. As part of my area studies for this semester, I'm doing French political thought in the early modern period. You're probably thinking to yourself right now, wow, that's incredibly niche. It is, but it's surprisingly interesting. I was a bit reluctant going into it at first as well, thinking that it was so niche, but it is super interesting. At the moment, I am reading works from this guy here called Montaigne. He's been dead for hundreds of years, of course, but his works are still very important in political thought and philosophy today. And last but not least, we got sociology. So sociology, a lot of people actually don't know what it is, but sociology is the study of people and their interactions with each other, and society as a whole. It's very scientific in the sense that we do a lot of experiments, observation experiments, excuse me, examining people and their attitudes to things and how they work and react to each other. But this module that I'm doing at the moment is on social movements, which is super interesting. So we're looking at a lot of the protests that are happening recently, and the ideas behind those protests, and the structure of those social movements, etc. So forth. It really is interesting.
In terms of careers, my degree, aside from the obvious teaching and translating, I am also eligible for jobs in the EU or in the UN. The EU requires one of English, French or German, but you actually have to be able to speak French to work in the UN, so I think that's an important point to note. And as well as this, there's also that kind of completely separate from language is this idea that I took languages with the idea of wanting to move on to law afterwards. So there are definitely lots of routes like that. You can take lots of courses after you graduate, and it really is just dependent on the individual. Overall, it is a great degree. It's very broad and there is a lot you can kind of achieve, or a lot of paths you can take afterwards. As well as that, travel's a big thing. I do be sitting there sometimes getting images or ideas like, oh, I might just up and move to France, and maybe I won't, maybe I will, but the fact that is a possibility. It is actually a choice I have. When I graduate, I can just move to France if I want to. I definitely think that's quite appealing.
I'm not sure it's nearly anything and everything but nothing at the same time, so it's not set in stone. I could really go on to do anything because it's such a broad course. But I think the best plan for me so far would be to maybe continue in education for another bit. So to maybe try and specialise a bit more, and to maybe give myself a bit more time to make a decision on what I want to do or where I want to go.
The career paths that are open to me are very diverse. I can either go down the art history route or the archaeology route, but at the moment I'm considering going down the archaeology route, and I really want to travel, even if that's doing an internship in archaeology or just to travel in general.
So there's a lot of career options for me available because of the diversity and breadth of my course. What would I like to do after college? I, for one, would probably maybe consider staying in college, doing a master's and even moving on to a doctorate. In the further future, consider maybe a career in politics and society. And beyond that as well, I would like to travel around using my language skills and cultural fluency to explore the world and its people for definite. And you'll see that as well with a lot of people who do my degree, is that because it's so broad, there's very few occupational areas actually that won't take a European Studies student because they're diverse knowledge and in-depth views on matters and issues on everything.
If I was to give one piece of advice to any student considering my course, it would be to make sure you love your languages. To be honest, college is hard. It's really, really hard. I'm stood here giving this talk on probably 5 hours sleep, 5.5 hours sleep, and you don't make that sacrifice, you don't make that commitment for a course you don't love. Languages, they're extremely difficult, so you need to really love what you're learning. You need to have that in the back of your head all the time. What is this end goal? Why am I doing this? What will I get from this? And if that end goal, what will I get from this? If that's making someone else happy, if that's, a job that I want that requires a language. If you don't like that language, it's going to be very hard to succeed. So any student considering a degree in any language whatsoever, if I have one piece of advice, it would be to make sure you love the language that you are going to study. That is the most important part about college after all, the fact that you love what you're studying.
My advice for those considering a course in archaeology and art history would be prepared to do a lot of reading. But I'd say if you have a passion for history like I do, that it would not bother you, and the course really tailors your needs and enhances and fuels your passion for history.
This ring I wear was actually from my late grandfather, but for me it represents my family and my ancestors and everyone who's come before me, and it constantly reminds me of how lucky I am to be where I am today and to have the opportunities that I have, and my responsibility to help others and to truly just, work towards a better future for myself and for my family and for everyone for that matter.
My name is Grace Benham,
Anthony O'Connor Sanam Dom.
Moi, je m'appelle Richard Redon.
My name is Emer.
and I'm a student studying ancient history and archaeology in Trinity College.
Táimid déanana stáda ar an Mhailge agus ar an Froncís ag go láiste na Trinity, Bally Achlé.
And I am very proud
To support College Awareness Week.
Et je soutiens la semaine de sensibilisation à l'université.